So I think that since we have talked about the connection between the movement of objects here on Earth with the heavens, a good next step for us would be to think about gravitation.
Ta thanda nganzugi thanda khaingi khamjida ani sai khamlan shesa dini pargi dewa di sherwas ta digi jela kombo pesa di nganzugi ta thenshu galdrona ani tagda roishtigi ores.
And we're going to give you today and for the rest of today lots of examples of gravitation, but also of other forces that for which we're going to draw force diagrams.
Ta thanda so den jema che dig jela engni yora di changma la khiran zuya remote ti jueres khari semba na shower la na thanda thenshu yora di chibu mai ba ya shuk thenshu mai be shuk shemba din zuya remote dinal thibu yores.
So I'm going to let go of this.
Ta di ngamalle is.
And what I want you to do is I want you to concentrate on its speed. What does its speed do?
Ta khiranju gela mallu ra stamers mallu du gala khiranju thenang khari chigu la na ti gyokse de la thenang chigu gures.
What did you notice?
Khiranju thenang khari chungsos. Jor do this. It moves faster and faster.
It moves faster and faster. Okay? So I would like you to draw a very quick diagram of the forces that are exerted on the iron after it has left my hands.
Ta khiranju thanda di tachish to di remote chunjish trochis di kharalana stomachs ki lapal le sajel changdo di le sa le sajel ma ruda di remudi shugi remudi trochis.
So you want to ask yourself, what objects are interacting with this iron when it's in the air and falling? Just draw the weight. One of you is drawing stomatis also. Just draw the weight.
This is after stomatis let go. Stomatis is not important.
Oh, thanda removes tida kashi stomatis tiye sara stomatis tigu yo mares. Khaila na stomatis ki lapal le sa jai ne dang di res. Stomatis yo mares shugi remuna.
Remember one thing.
Chik themba na shagu yo res.
Your arrows do not represent the motion, they represent the forces acting on the iron.
Ta khari themba na shagu yo la na daji tiyo remuna la. Di dadigi yogu chisa cho di tungu yo mares. Di khari tungu la na shuk di tungu yo res.
Okay. So how many objects are interacting with this iron when it's falling?
Ta di cha di ma le sa le du ma sa du ga su ngo bo kha nyam do phenju de cha gi dos di cha di. Two objects.
Okay, what two objects?
Ngo bo ni er so na ngo bo hari gar cha gi res. Sa dang no. One is the earth, sal and the say khola sung ya. One is the earth.
Yes.
The other one is air.
Okay. One is the earth and one is the air. So air, that's a new object. That hasn't come up yet.
Ta ngo bo ni le sa le ngo bo ni bo di lung sung ra. Ta di ngo bo sa ji le sa de le. Some of them are saying there's only one object interacting with this iron.
That's fine. So some of you say one object, and is that the earth?
And the ngobochik the khari res. Yeah, the earth.
And some of you say two objects, the earth and the air.
Kashigi chik she son stick the khare sa res ra phesu de odi. And kashigi ni shi dos ni the khare la na se khola da ani lung the res shi dos.
So I think we all agree that The earth is the force of gravity?
Se kola la tenshu yorwas chigdi.
Yes?
Revesa. Se kola la tenshu yorwas.
The force of gravity on the iron by earth.
Se kola tenshu di khol gyadur na chadiga gyadures.
So what about the air?
Ani lung diga ji khares.
For those of you that think air,
Lung ga ji sura yare. Upward force.
it's an upwards force. How long should I draw the arrow?
Ta kinju gi de la shuk jor la lung gi ya gya jodi. Andi shuk se de da de ringlo khagas thi yores. Shorter, a short one.
Shorter, okay. Why shorter?
Tünde tur sura kharchim tünde tures. Because it's falling down. The object
Because
is
it's falling
down.
down. But
Sorry, that is not a complete reason.
Yunse chasangoji chama sung gonda sadi.
Guru says it's not good enough.
Ya chasango jmendus ne. Lungi ya bio nashi lungi ma bigo res. So what he's saying is like the force with which the air pushes this object upwards, there is an equal force from upwards.
So he's saying the air
one is
pushes on
coming
an
downward,
equally.
yeah, on both
Oh,
sides. So
okay.
it cancels each other.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah. Is it if there was a force on the iron by the air that was equal and opposite to the force of gravity on the iron by the earth, could this still be moving?
Ta kesi de shugni do chik di lungi chagal ge jo resra chik di se kolegi chagal ge wadra di shugni de shugse chik pa yimbai na ngobu di ma sagru esala. No, it won't fall. If both the forces are equal, this object won't fall.
Am I moving right now?
Ngau yogu chigi do es. No.
Is our planet moving?
Anjo di sajura se kola di yogu chigi yorwes. Yes.
Am I on the planet?
Nga se kola nga yorwes.
Am I moving?
Nga yogu chigi yorwes. Da. Yo mare. Yo mare. No. Okay, few of them are saying yes. Most of them are saying no. We are not moving.
Do you not think that I'm part of the planet?
Kinju dinde chogu min de las nga di se kola ichashi jire samgu min de es.
Planet is moving.
Anjo se kola sa di guju tangi yorwas.
I'm moving with the planet.
Ngai di nyam do yogu chigi yorwas. Yes.
I'm relative to this floor and relative to all of you, I'm not moving.
Ta tu ni tawai na di thanda shala di da an thang shi khiran so thanda jinghan dina ni tawai na ni yogu machu ish thungu yores.
So it is possible for this thing to move, even if the forces are equal and opposite.
Ta thanda dile shugni ga chikpa thungu da di imbai na di ngobu de yogu chigi roas.
But we notice that this not only moves, it keeps going faster and faster and faster.
Ta ngoju thanda di chegu di chegap su ngobu di yogu chiwa chikpu maim ba che yogu chidan di gyose gyoru mat sag doas.
Here's an example of a different object. I wonder if you wouldn't mind stepping on the chair. I'm worried that I'll.
Ta pesu shemba ji yosti.
Where's the clinic again? Nyompa. So I'm going to drop this. So I'm going to drop this bag.
Ta di lue is kumade.
What do you think will happen?
Ta di giksho di mal lue na khar chungre samgu dos. It falls down slowly.
Let's try it.
So it does not get faster and faster as much as the other one did.
So did that get faster and faster and faster?
Ta thanda di giksho di lue so ma yogu chin mal li ora sadu gal gyoru sag dos. No.
Was it sort of moving at a constant speed?
근데 따도 걸라 따 요구 지요라 디 교체 디 랑자 로즈 되스
So
지고 로즈 되스 교체
if this is our bag,
디 간주기 탄다 기쇼 디 임바이나스
there would be a force of gravity on the bag by Earth.
탄다 디 기쇼 디 갈라 하리얼라 나 세콜레 텐슈 디야 야 슈디 갸디로스
And there could be an equal and opposite force
태안난시 아니 디기 도초 야 슈크셴바 주레스
on the bag by the air.
디 탄다 기쇼 디 갈라 슈디 갸기 하리 차데얼라 나 룽디레스
Is this the same situation as this situation?
ता 네당 디치 도 니바디 당보데다 치코레 되스 no
What do we need to do here to change, to make it correct?
ता चिपो 마레라라 디네당 당보디나라 교와 하리 당고도 디 디바스웰라 룽 슈디 가조레 okay this force should be short this arrow should be shorter
This arrow should be shorter, so I'll make this one longer.
레 파기 통하 거랑 디 오디링아 치기 인스 치고 차이로스
So, in order for this force to be big, we need to have a large area interacting with the air.
따디 슈디 침부 부구요 아이나 따 룽다 펜수 데와 칭이 ngobo jura 디기 갸근 체 부구요스
And so, for an object like this, which is compact, this force, although it is there, it is much, much smaller than this force.
따 탄다 ngobo 디로 샤장도 로 차샤나 춘주 슈다 야 뒤니 근데 춘주 슈윤도 갈라 디 슈디 딜라 드로이나 충아요레스
Another way you can see this, if you take two pieces of napkin tissue
따 탄다 간주 쇼고 주야 라고 체디 페수 샤와이나스
and you crumple one up,
찍디 가지르라나 마 도도 쇠샤서
and I let both go,
니가 말레두스
so the one that has less area interacting with the air falls faster.
따 니가 룽냠 튀유라 디도 차샤와이나 룽냠도 튀긴기 따 갸근 주라 디 뇽아이레스 충아 차드레스
How does the gravitational force on this one by Earth compare to the gravitational force on this one by Earth?
사이콜레 텐슈 주라 디 ngobo 디니라 드로이나 한데 주레스
Chikpa.
Chikpa. But the upward force here is small, here it is large.
따야 붕이기 슈주라 디 드로이나 디 충아체 파기 체레스
So for us to think about the properties of the gravitational force, we really want to think about falling in the absence of air.
따단당 안조 텐슈 간라 삼로 땅 부유나 ngobude 좀 마사기요라 사에디 따단당 안조 룽 메웨기 딘데 또 삼로 땅니 땅 부유레스다 텐슈디 하고 부유나
Because out in space, if we think about the moon and the planets and the interactions between stars, there is no air for interaction.
가이스나 다와 다오다 따단다 사셴바데 조요라 딘조 파라 삼로 땅 와이나 코란조 펜주 데와 조라 디난라 룽 요마레스 시오 차수에서디
So you have drawn, so then for the purposes of this experiment, for the purposes of the experiment that we did with the falling iron, can we neglect this force and just concentrate on this force?
땅 아주 디 단다 따지시다 디기 체드 디 지메로 땅 어체 디 랑갈 투나 치나 디기르웨스 khaju dida yame dang ro laura jime ro stan di rangal thona chine digi ro yes nam chiorish. Yes, we can.
Which means that this is not a good experiment.
Chesa ta di tangche yapuji chagi yo mares.
Here we cannot neglect this force.
De langanzo di shuji do di chime tang yo marwas.
Because this force is almost as big as this force.
Kais na di shukse ta oina di da danyam roj da chagi doas chipa roj doas.
So now what we want to do is we want to ask the following question.
Ta nganzo khari chendu du la oina kiranzo la thiwa khashish ma ta yes.
So I'm going to drop this iron and I'm going to drop this iron from the same height at the same time, and I want you to predict which one is going to hit the carpet first, or will both of them hit the carpet at the same time?
Ta thanda ni lakpa lo mobu ni res thanda changdo ni do di ni di tuzu chik che ani thuze chik pa che tinde malu gi is an le du gal khina zumon ba chiro chis mobu ni khangi sala thampo thuye jora khangi ni la thu res. So their prediction is the bigger one will touch the ground first.
Do the experiment. Have them do it.
Let's do the experiment.
Oh, ta khiran zumon ba chiro ta ta che che is.
Use your pillow,
Khiran gi shubdin jo di phejo chiro chis.
your cushion, so that this does not hit the floor and damage.
Kais na shubdin di khajin phejo churla na di shala kyo ana thola dura di thola ma je chedu khiran zo shubdin di phejo chiro chis ta je chedu.
Oh, get up, Aso. So there's maybe chikva. So this is interesting. There's about 80 plus monks in this room. There are about 80 or more monks in this room.
Ta di zinda na khar du law na thanga gya na zinda na lu tu kusho keju class tos dus.
I think most of you did this experiment maybe 10 or more times.
Ta keju ta je dus na temachul has chi gi res.
So that means we have 800 results from experiments.
Dila du mi chik chila chu chula na gejas chai do ta ta je gi dumde gejas ra res ngol.
So that's a lot of evidence.
Ta di pangda mangbu shuj ra chai ras.
So not only did you do this experiment, but this room and this community did this experiment.
Ta thanda ta je dinga zo khani ni ra gyor law na na zo cheri gi chiso jura di khangbe din ayu din ra gyu cha de res.
So from the back, what did you notice?
Kyan zo thanang khari chung sos.
Chikba? 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 Chikba?
It falls down at the same speed. Chibu mare. So he said the smaller objects touches yoga tugu dos. Chunga di yoga dos. The smaller object moves faster.
Okay. Smaller object moves faster.
Yeah, he said.
Okay, what about over here?
Ani khanan so chibu re mare not same.
How many of you discovered that they fall at the same speed? They fall at the same speed.
Yokse chigal ma sagudu le jura. Dende shingi khazo yus. Yokse chikpa ha. Chikpa imba.
Did anybody do an experiment where this was not the case?
Ta dende maimba ya chung sues. Chikpa maimba la ora da.
Show us your experiment. Show us the objects you were dropping.
Ta chikpa ma sai di chikpa yokse chikpa mare shingi jura. An keran su ita je khari che me ngobo di tendas.
Can one of you volunteer?
Ta thanglang chikpe das.
Stand up. No, you stand up.
Ngobo yala ya shang das.
So stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. So he has one object that's a piece of tissue paper and one object that's a case for glasses.
Ta de mix chik khar ngobo ni dus chik di shobu dir do. Chik di mixhe luksa gam dire shas.
So, why do you go ahead, do your experiment.
Kira daje di gozu das.
So what happened in his experiment?
Kura daje na khare chungu dos. Khare chido.
Yeah, one person.
One object is lighter, another is heavier.
That's true. One object is lighter than the other. But in
Di res mu buchik yang ayo res chemba di da durwai na.
in this experiment, one object is lighter and this object is heavier.
Ta di daje na lai mu buchik ji yang a che chik ji ayo ros.
And we know that they're chikpare.
Manzo ha bu ayo ros di chik par ros ma sa du.
So how many of you think that these fall at the same speed and hit the ground at the same time?
Ta di lo ai na mu bu ni do. Di lo du gala jose chik gal sa ani sa gal ma sa du tu chik la sa ger sam ni khajo yes.
Same. How many of you think that no, they will not hit at the same time?
Ta tu chik la tu ku mare la jora jose kheba yor la ni khajo yes.
Okay. So ¿qué pasó? We are in a situation where, as a community, some of us have one theory and observation, and some of us have a different theory and observation.
Ta nganzo di chiso chik ra, cheri di chiso di indu gala, di nanglo la kashi ki khardu, namsha da toshib chingyo mandawa cha de shas penju.
So what do we do?
Ta nganzo khar chigu gu res. Experiment. We need to do experiment.
Okay, let's do more experiment. So for the people that found these to be the same, what experiment would you suggest for the people that think it's different?
Ta kiranzo tuju chigla sagudu lange jora. Digita khashi ki tuju chigla sagumundu lange jora. Kiranzo konzo la taje dende ji chilan lawa na taje khande ji tegi is. So chala di konzo tene. So we'll give the same objects that we have used.
Okay, so they're suggesting that you try it with the same objects.
Ta kiranzo samju khar lawa na konzo ge taje kiranzo chio tharangja koranzo chi lagi roas.
Why are you suggesting that?
Di khajin lagi yes kiranzo. Because of their objects, they are getting different results. That's why we are providing our own objects.
Okay. So raise your hand if you think these are different.
Ta dini manda ore samge yo aina chakyang das.
So look around the room. Okay, there's a few people here. So we want you, with the help of others, to try this experiment where you're dropping the same objects.
Ta di mallo ni ta jora. Dini di mallo ni ta di kiranzo taje di chero chis.
And the reason is because the force from the air will be the same.
Khaisana di ngobu nish do. Di kiranzo khashi lungi ya shu ge du la jora. Di chikpa chagi yores khailana ngobu ni ka chikpa roas.
Some of you very correctly pointed out that there is the force of the air pushing back up on the object as it falls.
The kiranzo ge tagda shesnos khaisna khashi kharishirlan lungi ya bugur la jora ngobu dila. Di yores.
And the larger the area of the object that is falling, the stronger that force will be.
Di la du gala thanda lung da thengi gi da de jora gya khön jora. Di khagas ki chho na digas ke ani lungi ya manga bugu yores.
But if you drop two objects that have the similar volume, similar shape,
Ina ta di ngobu ni gi ta ib di chikpa cha de ras phongze da ib di ta waina.
the force of the air pushing up will be the same.
Di la du lungi ya bue jora di shuk chikpa cha de yores.
So then the only thing that's different is the downwards force.
Ta khebar chik yores di kharir la waina ma bungi gi shuk di khebar du ras.
Take another minute to try the experiment that your colleague suggested.
다 키란주기 찍고 레랑이 기 찍고 마레 랑이라 키란주 따지 디치라 니셰스와 대가랑 키란주다 마레 랑이 든주 낭로 치스
And for the rest of you, if you want to do this one more time, go ahead, do this one more time.
다 찍고 레숭이 든주 연결 캡도 따지 대가랑 낭만 지리스
So, did anybody learn anything new in our second round of experiments?
다 따지 니워지 치라 디나리아 키란주기 사와 앤디 섀도우 총수에스 Yes.
No? Do you still think Chikpamare?
그냥 단도에 삼고 돼 찍고 말에 삼고 돼서 술.
Chikpamare, Chikpamare. Chikpamare, okay.
토지마 이거로 kunyi ma chapel ma nyero dili ne chapel
뭐 보지 그냥 임바이나.
yo chama 뒤질라 봐 말레 통 yo 데다 쇼고 지르시 데리 지게나 chapel 근데 말하는데 chapel 총을 내가 지게나 chapel 못
When you let these two objects from that distance, at the beginning there is much difference between the speed, and later on, like thangbo yosil kebar shudura, chikpara thangbo.
What two objects? What two objects?
토지는 chapel 데리 들어
Okay, the distance, like the difference becomes
Okay.
less.
What two
when it
objects?
tries-
What two objects?
뭐 보니 가르쳐 주지 있어.
Oh. Okay. What about dropping the same objects?
딱 뭐보 단다 그런 게 쉬어 있는 뭐보 로가르도. 네 뭐보 찍고 말려 와이나 아니 가르쳐 준 거도.
For the people, for the monks that think they're different, is it a big difference or is it a small difference?
딱 찍고 말에 신이 줘라. 근데 이번에 케바요 아니나 케바 친구 슈도 양 케바 춘주를 시작한데 레시아스. 케바 요르라라. 찍고 말라는 케바 요르라오라. 케바 디 친구도 춘주 도서 치와르시. Oh, not too big, not too small.
So this iron, compared to this iron has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more weights.
딱 디니 두르와이나스. 디 답 투기 아니 지제 토아도아스.
Will this drop 6 times faster than this one?
딜라두갈 말르두갈 디 마 사그라. 디 교세 답 투 교가 요르웨스.
No. The idea that these fall with the same changing speed down is a very difficult idea to accept.
따단다 마 사두갈라 교세들 교 두어라. 디 조단 디갈다 삼주 렘바이나 렌단 디 카부 차기 요레스. 교 조단 디.
Because our experience in life is normally that bigger objects should have more force and therefore they should fall faster.
카이스나 ngaransu samchunal khariyor lawaina samnunala ngobo jigo chada che dinde yoaina huzula shuk manga yor la jora shuk che lan di yores.
But almost all of you did this experiment and saw that they fall together.
An kiranju changma itaje cheroas di chedugala ngobo ni di ledugala tujuchigla ma sa yores nyamdo.
And what we mean by together is that at all instants they were side by side.
다 냠돌라나 간데질 라고라나 내당 간데질 따와이나 라 가두 따와이나 그러니까 지기 탈라 데데 주스 통고레스 냠도 마사.
Imagine that you had a speedometer in each one of them, in which one of the objects.
땅 안쪽에 요체 젤체 주라 디 케시 니가로 요아이나스 안 따와이나스 마 따제디 치요갑스.
The speedometer on the first one would change like this. It would start at 0 and the speed would increase.
ngobu thangbo de la kesi jose jilche de yo ainas la ra ndi yo 100 ru lan thangbo le ko ra malu de de sing pha du res jose de.
The speedometer on the second one would start at 0 and would increase like this.
Ani ngobu ni wa jura de la ge jose jilche de yo ainas le ko ni go chu ni de sing yang pha du res.
And if I have the two speedometers, they would both start at 0 and they would increase by exactly the same, in exactly the same way.
Ta thanda jose jilche ni ka ta ainas to du ga thangbo go chu le ko ni go chu ani de sing ya pha du res ngobu ni ga ga.
So, I love the questions that you are asking about the effect of the force by the air.
Ta kiran so gi thiwa mangbush le sons lungi ya shuji gya yor la ni tin so thiwa din so ya bu dos.
You're truly scientists.
Kiran so mone cheri pareshas.
You want to actually understand all the intricacies of the experiment at hand.
Ta takche khande ji chiwa na dig nang lo shikcha to ne dre jura kiran so di nang dos.
So one of the things that we're going to do after lunch, if the internet allows us to do it, is we will see the results of an experiment that has been conducted in a very, very tall tower.
Ta thanda ningu shela jela thagya di khizile ga chiwa ina thanda takche thagara kyangta ringbu shu ni chiwa ina ani khande yemi di thagya nan te res di thagya lega chiwa ina shela percent jel ngang ta chu res.
A very tall tower where all the air has been removed from the tower.
Ta thanda kawar ringbu shu ju ya chira di gane ani thanda ngang lung changma tön sha jo din de do chi ne dang chi cha sha gi res.
And therefore, in that situation, there is no upward force.
Ta lung che yo mare la du gola ne dang din de la khari la oina ya bungi gi shuk jura din de che yo mares.
And the two objects that will be dropped is a feather and a coin.
Ta ngobu ni lu ra gang ni di lu ngobu ni di khari cha de la na chi gi charo che chi di ani ngzo tam kha yo point di cha gi res.
But we'll have to wait until after lunch for us to be able to see the difference.
Ta di khebar di thoi la ngzo shela percent sa sa ko
See
du
the
res.
results of the experiment.
Di dumde jura di shela percent je la ngzo ta res.
Let's actually think about let's think about our experimental results so far.
Ta thande bo de su su gi ta che shigyo jura di dumde thol samlush ta is.
So one thing that we could do is we could think about what would happen. What would happen if I drop an object from here? This object is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is has a mass of 350 grams.
Ta di ngobu ju do kesi dine lyo bainas di ngobu di gi ta de se ta waina ni gram sum jang ap chu yores tin de dun dus chang do.
So the gravitational force on the iron would be 3.5 newtons.
Di la do ta tenshu ji ya ge ro adila tenshu di khaju ge ro la na newton sum che nga yores dila.
So we are going to drop it from a meter above from the ground.
Ta ma lu ro ngobu di lu gi those khaga sur la na mirror chik sam yores.
And we measure the time that it takes for it to hit the floor.
Ta di ngobu di sal thu ura di thue de ani thujo di ngju che je res.
We measure the time.
Thujo di che je res ra che je res.
And then what we do is we put it on a very, very smooth surface.
Jel kha chi la na ngwe jambu chi kan la shay res.
A very smooth surface, not like this one, but a very smooth surface.
Ta di do mare ngwe jambu shu chi kan la.
And we pull it sideways
Andi khandes thingir la na thela the thala tin de
with a
thingir
force that is 3.5 newtons.
an thengi shuk jura shuk che khajur la na newton sum che ngai thingires.
And we know that it is going to speed up.
Nga zo ha gu ras di thanda thendu gala gyose di ya yor du yures.
And we measure the amount of time that it takes for it to cover 1 meter horizontally.
An digi thanda gyose di thingra di thendu gala mirror chik na la gyose khagas tu yura mirror chik na la di tagres.
And so the question that I have for you to think about is, how does the time that it would take for it to go 1 meter on a horizontal, very, very smooth surface under a net force of 3.5 newtons to the time that it will take for it to drop 1 meter under the gravitational force of 3.5 newtons.
Ta thanda thegi theshuk sum chek nga la ra ngoi jambu shiujigal thembai na thujo khagas ko me di ta che thana shi gang ni mal lu yo ngo bodi ledu gala mirror chik thoje mirror chik sam mal lu na thujo khajuk ko me di ta res.
Why don't you discuss this with your neighbors?
Ta di thanda chik ne dang ni chu she so di ne dang de kheran ju phenju thudur na ro shes. Choose chukji sim shas thanda.
Have a wonderful lunch.
Shela yewu na ros.
We will see you at 2.
Ani choose yewu la kya tu je yons.
And as soon as you come back, we will discuss the comparison of the two times.
Ta thanda shela percent jel choose yewu jumdu ngazu khari thudur chigir la na thuju ni gi kor yura digal thudur chi yis.